So, dear participants, welcome to our another next academic session. We are very happy to have Professor Sabita Samanta with us today. Professor Samanta is a professor of philosophy at West Bengal State University. She is a very distinguished expert on Nyaya-Vaisesika and also other systems of Indian philosophy. She is the author of many good articles and also books which are highly acclaimed by the philosophical community. So, welcome, Professor Samanta, to our online course. So, Professor Samanta will be speaking on origin and source, utpatti, and the ascertainment of the cognition, jñāpti, a discussion from the Nyaya perspective. So, Professor Samanta, over to you.
Thank you, Professor Chakraborty. I am so grateful for giving me this opportunity. And now I am going to start my lecture. Can I off my video?
If you want, you can. Would that help
Yes.
you?
I think if net permit, whether
Okay.
permit or not, I don't know.
Okay.
That's why, since it is
Okay.
a long time,
Yes. Yes.
if it necessary, then I can open. But otherwise,
Okay.
okay. Thank you. Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome you all. Today, I am going to discuss one of the most well-known yet most intricate polemic of Indian epistemology, in which most of the Indian philosophical schools of Indian philosophy participated, and it is concerned with the problem of validity, that is pramatva and invalidity of pramatva or apramanno of cognition, which is known as pramannavada. That is pramannavada in Indian philosophy. If you face any problem, then please notice me. So this problem is generally known as discussed as a theory, that is pramannavada, theory of truth. Theory of truth, two forms. We have two forms of pramannavada. One is shata pramannavada and other paratha pramannavada. And this pramannavada in Indian philosophy may be offered from two separate aspects or two separate perspectives. That is, one from the origin and source of the validity of cognition or jnana, that is known as utpatti paksha of pramanna. And in other aspect is the ascertainment of the validity, which is known as gupti paksha. That is how pramanna reveals and how pramanna is known by us. That is the issue. And I have already mentioned that most of the Indian schools participated in this debate, though today I will be focused mainly two prominent schools, that is the Prabhakara school, who propound Shata-Pramannavada, and the Nyaya school, and their Paratha-Pramannavada. And I think it would be better that first I would like to discuss the main tenets, the main content of both the theories, that is Shata-Pramannavada and Paratha-Pramannavada. And then we can analyze the theories critically and try to understand which one is more acceptable or not, etc. So, first, would like to discuss what is Shata Pramannavada. You know, Shata Pramannavada, the very name signifies that is the doctrine of self-validity of cognition. Self-validity of cognition, Shata, by itself. which forms the cornerstone of the whole structure of Mimamsa philosophy is based. We know validity means certitude of truth, ascertainment of truth. The Mimamsa philosophy asserts that all cognitions except memory is valid in itself. That is, cognition neither depends on any other extraneous condition or cause, nor on any other knowledge for its validity or pramanno. So, according to Mimamsaka, the truth of what is recognized as true cognition, the truth of what is recognized as true cognition, valid cognition, is known from itself. Shata. On the contrary, according to Nyāya, which I shall discuss separately, such truth is known from other sources. That is Parata. Okay. Here, to know the faith known from itself signifies that known from the same conditions or same factors that reveals the existence of the particular cognition, of that particular cognition. And similarly, the faith known from other sources, which I have used in last paragraph, means known from the conditions which are other than what reveals the existence of that particular cognitive state or cognition. That's why it is Parata, and the first one is Koto. In Mimamsa philosophy, there are three schools, that is the Prabhakara school, the Bhatta school, and the Mishra school. And all the three schools express their view regarding the validity or pramanno of cognition. The Prabhakara school, actually Bhatta school, Kumarin Bhatta first details, elaborately discusses the theory of their theory, Pramannavada, and criticize the other theory, theory, and also other theory of other Indian schools. Kumarin explains Pramannavada in the following manner. He states that the validity of a cognition is due to conditions that are intrinsic to knowledge, and the knowledge of validity is due to the conditions of knowledge itself. It means, what does it mean? That is, knowledge is both made valid and known to be valid by its own intrinsic condition. Yes, that is, we know that when we have a knowledge, that is knowledge of this is a pot, this knowledge expresses the knowledge itself, and also it expresses that it is a valid knowledge. But considering the invalidity of knowledge, that is apramanno of knowledge, they differ. They hold the invalidity of knowledge is due to some defects in the conditions of knowledge, that is karanodosha. That is, considering invalidity, Mimamsakas agreed with the Nyāyikas. Nyāyika also Parata Apramannavadi, and they also Parata Pramannavadi, but Mimamsakas Sata Pramannavadi, but Parata Apramannavadi. Since According to them, invalidity is extrinsic to knowledge. Extrinsic to knowledge. Now, in order to explain why one acts to grasp the object of knowledge, one has to accept that validity is intrinsic. For one does not act to grasp an object unless he or she is convinced that it is there, and one is disappointed when one attempts for it and fails to find it. Therefore, it is necessary to assume that knowledge is intrinsically valid but extrinsically invalid. শত প্রামাণ্য পরত অপ্রামাণ্য. Okay. Next, according to Prabhakar, as knowledge naturally illumines itself and its object as well, validity is apprehended by knowledge itself. Prabhakar is known for their Triputi Pratyakshavado. Triputi Pratyakshavado. That is, when we have knowledge, we have three types of pratyaksha. Knowledge reveals the object, knowledge reveals the knowledge itself, knowledge reveals the knower. All the three are revealed by the knowledge. That is Triputi Pratyakshavada. And adding to this, Prabhakar's claim that the knowledge itself reveals the validity of that knowledge. So they admit that the condition which reveals the knowledge, the same condition reveals the validity of that knowledge. Okay. The Bhattas argue that knowledge is beyond the cognizance of the senses. Knownness, that is Gyatota or Prakotya. Knownness is produced by knowledge in that object. This knownness reveals the knowledge, and in the same way, this knownness or Gyatota reveals the validity or pramanno of that knowledge. That is Gyatota Lingak Anumiti. So we can say, according to Bhattas, the condition which reveals the knowledge, that is Gyatota, the same condition reveals the validity of that knowledge. That is Gyanograhako Samagri, Gyanotpadako Samagri, Gyanograhako Samagri, and Gyanopramanna Grahako Samagri. All these three Samagri's conditions are same. In this sense, they are Shatapramanavadi. On the other hand, Murari Mishra says that the validity, like knowledge, is grasped by an Anubhyavasaya. Murari Mishra's views is like the Nyāyikas. Nyāyikas also admit that knowledge is accepted by, knowledge is known by another knowledge, internal perception, Anubhyavasaya. Murari Mishra also holds the same view that like knowledge, so knowledge is grasped by Anubhyavasaya. The validity of knowledge is also grasped by the Anubhyavasaya. So, though three schools of Mimamsa differ in opinion regarding the origin of knowledge and acceptance of validity of knowledge, but according to all of them, intrinsic validity belongs to all sources of right knowledge. That is, all of them admit the view that the conditions which produces knowledge, reveals knowledge, and also reveals the validity of that knowledge. In this sense, all of them are. Yes.
Sabita, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes.
Among the participants, please listen. There is somebody whose name appears as a number 376C285C. Please mute yourself, otherwise we'll be compelled to remove you from the screen. Please. Please, somebody with the number 376C285C. Sorry, Sabita, please go ahead.
No, it's okay. But am I audible clearly?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. If any participant face any problem, please try to note me as early as possible. Okay. Now, next, what I would like to say that in this point, we can say that according to the Mimamsakas, whenever any knowledge arises, it carries with it an assurance about its own validity, and they thought that such is consistent, and one need not consider the causal merit to cause the validity. That is, the knowledge which is so powerful, which can express the object, the knowledge itself, and the knower, that cannot express the validity of that knowledge, it is absurd. So they admit that the same knowledge which reveals the object, the knowledge, the knower, also reveals the validity of that knowledge. This is called Shato Pramannavado. In such a case, one infers from the existence of imperfect condition. Then why they admit Bharato Apramannavad? They justify that when one infers from the existence of imperfect conditions the falsity of that knowledge. And in that case, the falsity of such knowledge is ascertained by inference. While validity is intrinsic. The Mimamsa theory of intrinsic validity shows that validity is a quality of all knowledge inseparable from it. That means for the Mimamsakas, knowledge means valid knowledge. I have knowledge, that is, I know that it is raining, but it is not raining at all. This is contradictory or absurd. To them, all knowledge are inseparable from validity, which is an inseparable quality of knowledge. Now, the controversy between the Mimamsa and the Nyaya regarding the validity of knowledge, we know, has become very classic and interesting. The Mimamsakas agrees with the Nyaya so far as the invalidity of knowledge is concerned, because both regard it as due to extraneous conditions. But Mimamsaka criticizes Nyaya in regard to the validity, that is Pramanna of knowledge. So next we have discussed the Paroto Pramannavada of Nyaya. Paroto Pramannavada. Paroto Pramannavada, Nyaya, the Nyaya hold that the validity or Pramanna of knowledge cannot be ascertained by the knowledge itself. Why? We know that in Nyaya philosophy, the term knowledge, buddhi or jnana, etc., used in synonymous way, and they consider that jnana or buddhi is of two kinds, that is anubhava and sriti. Anubhava is again divided into two classes, that is jathartha and ajathartha, valid and invalid. Only this valid anubhava, jathartha anubhava, is considered as prama. So, for Nyaya, whatever we know not value or proma. That is, knowledge and proma are totally, no, proma is different from knowledge. Knowledge may be যথার্থ and অযথার্থ, but proma only যথার্থ অনুভব. So for them, প্রামাণ্য or promatto cannot be grasped by the knowledge itself. It is extraneous, parato. It is extraneous or parato. Parato means that when we know an object, that is, suppose this is a pot, this anubhav, if it is yathartha, only then it will be considered as proma. We know Nyāyikas admit correspondence theory of truth, that is, if the object tally with the reality, and they define true knowledge, that is proma, as tadvati tatprakarako. Tadvati tatprakarako means that is truth is correspondence with reality. Truth means truth must correspond with reality. In the case of false knowledge, this correspondence is lacking, at least in part. So, in Nyaya philosophy, truth thus defined as extrinsic. That is, both the generation and the knowledge of truth depend upon external factors. That is, according to Nyāyikas, the generation of truth depends upon an additional excellence, that is, guna. In Bhasha Parichhet, we find Vishwanath holds, dosho apramaya janakaho pramayastu guno bhavet. Dosho apramaya janakaho pramayastu guno bhavet. That is, the generation of truth depends upon an external, additional excellence or quality, which is defined as guna. And that means this is extra from the normal conditions which we need for the origination of knowledge. Okay. Similarly, knowledge of truth, that is, proma, for the production of origination of proma, we need guna as additional condition. And similarly, the knowledge of truth, that is pramanno, arises when our knowledge is confirmed either by some other knowledge or by fruitful activity. Fruitful activity, that is সংবাদী প্রবৃত্তি. সংবাদী প্রবৃত্তি, সফল প্রবৃত্তি জনকত্ব. সংবাদী প্রবৃত্তি or সফল প্রবৃত্তি জনকত্ব. So, it is clear that the Nyaya distinguishes between two conditions, that is, the conditions of knowledge and the conditions of truth and falsity. Okay, that is, the conditions which produces knowledge are totally different from the condition which produces the truth and falsity, pramanno and apramanno of knowledge. That's why it is parato. If the former alone is said to generate truth, there would be no false knowledge. Hence, they said it is necessary to admit that generation of truth involves an additional factor. Generation of truth, pramanno, for pramanno, we need an additional factor. However, this doesn't mean that, according to Nyaya, knowledge when it is born is neither true nor false. It is from its inception either true or false. But whichever of the true, that is, whether it is true or false, that is, whether truth or falsity be the feature of knowledge, its generation involves a factor in addition to the normal conditions of knowledge. So, Promatto cannot be produced by the normal conditions of knowledge. Promatto is extraneous, and that is সফল প্রবৃত্তি জনকত্ব, successful activity. You know, Nyaya holds that all our ব্যবহার সর্বব্যবহার হেতুগুণ বুদ্ধির জ্ঞান, behind all our behavior there are some sort of knowledge, and if that knowledge is not valid or proma, our ব্যবহার will not be successful. So it means that the validity or pramanno of knowledge is something different from that knowledge. That's why in Nyaya philosophy, the sharp distinction is maintained between jnana and proma. Okay. Now, as regard to the knowledge of truth, Nyaya maintains that it is extrinsic, poroto. Otherwise, there would be no place for doubt about any knowledge. Even, in fact, against Shatapramanabado, the main argument of Nyaya is Pramattam na Shatograjyam Sangshayanupapattito. Pramattam na Shatograjyam Sangshayanupapattito. What does it mean? That is, truth of a knowledge with regard to which there is no doubt is known intrinsically. The Nyaya does not admit some species of knowledge in the case of which there is no doubt, such as inferential, introspective, and familiar knowledges, that is, which are produced in familiar circumstances. Obhasho dasapanno gyano. Obhasho dasapanno gyano, the knowledge which produced in familiar circumstances are free from doubt, but we have doubt regarding the validity of knowledge sometimes. So, if the truth of this is admitted to be known intrinsically, there would be no logical ground for denying the same in the case of other knowledges which are free from doubt. The Nyaya position in this regard is that truth Nyaya holds that truth of inferential knowledge, etc., is known intrinsically. How, if there is any doubt regarding their truth, then it has to be ascertained with reference to some other knowledge. That is, the point is that in some cases, we have no doubt regarding the validity of that knowledge. But sometimes we doubt arises in our mind regarding the validity or invalidity of particular knowledge. In that case, how we can determine the status of that doubtful knowledge, sangshatmok gyano. In that case, the knowledge of fruitfulness of activity, knowledge of the fruitfulness of activity, that is, inferential knowledge, etc., are accompanied by certainty. So, Nyaya argues that in the cases of knowledge produced in anobhas dasapanno state, that is, unfamiliar situations, we have to admit that pramanno must be extraneous or poroto, that is, the pramanno of that knowledge must be determined by some extraneous factors, that is, the safala pravritti or fruitful activity. Now, the controversy between Nyaya and Mimamsakos regarding the Pramanya, that is Shato Pramanya and Parato Pramanya, between these two main theories of Pramanyavada is very much popular to all of us. The dispute between the Nyaya and the Mimamsa concerning the knowledge of truth is quite intelligible. But if we consider the dispute regarding the generation of truth, it passes comprehension. That is, the question is, can we talk meaningfully of the condition of truth as we do talk of the conditions of true knowledge? What does it mean? That is, truth or pramanya is the common feature of all true knowledges. It has to be admitted by both the Nyaya and the Mimamsa as universal, which in their view is eternal. That is promatto. Promatto is the common characteristic or proma. This is the general properties, that is universal, samanno. It is not a temporal event as true knowledge is. Hence, the dispute between them over the generation of truth is not only meaningless, but also inconsistent with their position. That is, the Mimamsa admits that truth is not generated separately from knowledge, what I have already told, but it should consistently maintain that truth is never generated at all, and that is why it is intrinsic to knowledge. But it should, the point is that a self-consistent theory of intrinsic truth of knowledge, that is Satu Pramanyavad, would refuse to entertain the question of generation of truth altogether. Understand? That is, if Mimamsakas hold the position that all knowledges are true by nature, there is no invalid knowledge. All knowledge are valid. Then the question of the origination of truth, becomes futile. That is, there is no need to discuss how truth of knowledge is originated or whether it is intrinsic, etc. This is the point, that if all knowledge are valid, if this is the thesis of Mimamsa, then is there any need to establish Satu Pramanyavada regarding the origination of truth of knowledge? Okay. Now, it cannot be a quality of knowledge. Now, if we consider Nyaya view, what we can say, even for the Nyaya, truth cannot be generated as it cannot be anything else but universal. It cannot be a quality of knowledge as knowledge itself in the Nyaya view is a quality of the soul, and there can be no inherent of quality in a quality. We know knowledge, that is jnana or buddhi, is a quality of self in Nyaya philosophy. And knowledge or jnana or buddhi being a quality, it can be no further quality as its quality, because Nyāyikas do not admit quality of qualities. They do not admit quality of qualities, which are admitted in Sankhya philosophy. But Nyāyikas do not admit. So there can be no inherence of quality in a quality. Besides, what we can say, that is, this quality, according to the Nyaya, is a particular feature of a substance, while truth, as defined, is is a universal feature. Hence, the controversy between the Nyaya and the Mimamsa over the condition generating truth has no significance. That is what I would like to express here is that from the point of utpatti paksha, that is origin of Brahmana, I think the dispute, the controversy between Nyaya and Mimamsa has no extra significance since both of them admit, Mimamsaka admit all knowledge as true. So independently, they have no necessity to prove the pramana of those knowledge which are already accepted as valid. And for Nyayicas, from the perspective of Utpatti Paksha, since knowledge is considered as a quality of self and they do not admit the quality of quality, so how Pramatva as a quality of Brahma is produced seems has no significance at all. So this is the issue of this discussion. However, the question about the knowledge of truth, that is Pramana, is more important from the point of view of epistemology. So we cannot discard it as I have already stated. This is one of my observations, but the Pramanavad is one of the most important thesis of epistemology. So there are some objections against the Nyaya view. Nyaya criticizes Mimamsa views. So now we shall try to understand how Mimamsakas criticizes Nyaya and how Nyayicas defends themselves criticizing Mimamsa view. Next, what I have already mentioned that according to Nyaya, validity of knowledge is due to excellence, that is karana guna janna. The efficiency or deficiency of the conditions or causes is constituted by certain positive factors. We cannot say that the efficiency of the conditions of knowledge is simply the absence of defect in the dosha bhava, or that their deficiency means only the absence of efficient conditions, guna bhava. That is, dosha bhava, guna bhava cannot be considered as the cause of pramatva or apramatva, respectively. Both efficiency and deficiency stand for certain special positive conditions which modify the general conditions of knowledge and make it valid and invalid, respectively. Hence, what we can say, both the validity and invalidity of knowledge are conditioned by extrinsic conditions other than the conditions of knowledge itself. Parato utpatti. Now, how is the validity or invalidity of knowledge are known by certain external conditions? I have already discussed, according to Nyaya, that are Safalya Pravritti, Janakatva. And so, Mimamsa Nyayicas contends that knowledge arises simply as knowledge, and in that time, knowledge is neutral, and the question of its validity or invalidity arises afterwards and depends on external test. The Mimamsakas points that the so-called neutral knowledge is an impossibility. Mimamsakas argued against Nyāyika's view. They argued that so far as Nyaya states that knowledge arises as neutral, but they argued the so-called neutral knowledge is an impossibility. We always experience either valid or invalid knowledge. There is no third alternative. We never experience neutral knowledge. To say so, that is, to say knowledge arises as neutral is to maintain the absurd position that knowledge, when it arises, is devoid of all logical value. Hence, neutral knowledge is no knowledge at all. All knowledge either must be either valid or invalid, prama or aprama. They argued, Mimamsakas argued, validity cannot be due to any extraneous condition. Why? Because they thought nothing can validate knowledge if knowledge is not self-valid. The presence of any excellence, that is guna, the guna which is considered as the janaka of prama by Nyāyikas, Prabhakara argued that guna in the cause of knowledge cannot make it valid. For no such excellence is known. There is no necessity of assuming any excellence in cause of knowledge. And they further argued that validity is a quality of all knowledge inseparable from it. And if Nyāyikas admit a second knowledge to validate the first knowledge, then it will then the fallacy of infinite regress will inevitable. Why? Mimamsakas argues that if the validity of knowledge is due to an external condition, like some excellence in the causes of knowledge or correspondence or fruitful activity, whatever it may be, then this second knowledge would require a third knowledge to validate the first knowledge and so on. So the fallacy of infinite regress cannot be avoided, since the knowledge of the external condition which is said to validate any knowledge, being itself a knowledge, would require another external condition to validate it. Then what will be the situation? All knowledge must be regarded as self-valid. Otherwise, we cannot deny infinite regress. Next, Mimamsakas continued to defend their position. The so-called extraneous conditions like excellence, correspondence, or fruitful activity are really neither extraneous nor mere conditions. Excellence means only freedom from defect. Fruitful activity means absence of contradiction. And correspondence means true representation. True representation of the object. Tadvati tatprakarako. Now, these things are the necessary conditions which give rise to valid knowledge. These are the essential prerequisites of any valid knowledge. These are the preconditions for having valid knowledge. And in their absence, valid knowledge would not arise at all. So they are internally and intimately connected with the causes, with the normal causes which produce knowledge. Hence, they are neither extraneous nor extra condition or more condition, or nor they can taste the validity of knowledge. They are the essential and necessary causes which produce valid knowledge. These causes being present, knowledge would arise, and it would arise together with its validity. So, Shatapramanavadis argued in this manner against Nyaya view. But Nyaya has also several arguments against this Shatapramanavada. They also argued the Nyaya raises two main objections. They have several arguments, but among them two are main. These two main objections against the theory of Shatapramanna, that is, theory of intrinsic truth. The first one is, Nyaya said, if the truth of a knowledge is known intrinsically, that is, along with the knowledge, then it cannot be proved false subsequently. What does it mean? According to Nyaya, it would be absurd. That is, considering Shatapramanavad, that is, when Prabhakaraj established their Shatapramanavada, they hold that it is absurd to say that I know something, but that is not true. That's why to know means to know as true. That is their point. But Nyaya argued that if this position is accepted, that is, whenever we know something, if we accept it as valid one, as yathartha, then the distinction between true and false knowledge would have to be abandoned. That is, there will be no distinction. We cannot be able to make a distinction between valid knowledge and invalid knowledge. Yes, as a matter of fact, the term knowledge is used by the Nyaya in a very loose sense. Actually, while Nyaya uses the term knowledge, that is jnana or buddhi, they distinguishes it from proma. So it seems some may argue that they use the term gyan in a very loose sense. That is, somehow it is used in the sense of belief. A belief cannot be claimed to be true, and in its strict sense, it can only mean true knowledge. That is, we have to remember that they use the term jnana or buddhi, and they used it as separate from true knowledge. So actually, what they want to mean that knowledge, knowledge may be either true or false, and only true knowledge is considered as prama, and pramanna or pramatto is the characteristic of that true knowledge. So, for the Nyāyikas, truth is known subsequently. That is, when the knowledge or gyan is justified by another knowledge. It cannot be intrinsic. Second objection is against Shatapramanavadi is that the theory of intrinsic truth, that is Shatapramanavad, in the theory of Shatapramanavada, we see that in this second objection of the Nyaya against the theory of intrinsic truth, what they want to say that mind cannot know the truth of a knowledge by itself. Why? Because it is incapable of knowing external facts independently. Mind can apprehend, but it cannot know the truth or falsity by itself, or it cannot know whether the latter corresponds to the fact or not without the help of another knowledge. Basically, whenever Shatapramanavadi accepts knowledge as self-justified, that does not match with our practical experience. Why? Since in our practical life, we have false knowledge, we have knowledge which contradict our experience, etc. So, if we admit that all knowledges are true by nature, by itself, then false knowledge and what I have already mentioned earlier, samshaya, etc., cannot be explained at all. But all these are the content of our practical experience. So, Shatapramanavad cannot be accepted as a legitimate theory to explain the pramanno of knowledge. Now, in this part, I would like to explain that truth of a knowledge, according to Nyāyikas, truth of a knowledge is always known extrinsically, that is by inference. Safalo pravritti janakatva hetutvat, by inference to some other knowledge. Though it is intrinsic to knowledge in the sense that it constitutes the very nature of knowledge. While considering the theory of extrinsic truth of knowledge, I had remarked that the Nyaya uses the term knowledge as distinct from valid knowledge, proma. They uses the term knowledge, that is jnana, as separate from proma. It has been held that truth is an essential feature of knowledge, but this by itself does not reveal the nature of knowledge completely. In addition to truth, certainty or definiteness is also an essential feature of knowledge. It would be somehow seems absurd, that is absurd to assert that, for instance, I can say, suppose I say that I know it is raining outside, but I am not certain. So it is somehow absurd. It seems to be absurd. However, there is an important difference between knowing and being certain. I may be mistaken about something, even though I am certain about it, but not so if I know about it. Thus, knowing entails certainty. That is, to know means to know it as certain, but though not vice versa. However, it is not possible that even when my belief is true and certain, it is not a case of knowledge. I may draw a true conclusion by invalid means from false premises, or believe a truth on the strength of a dream, etc. In such cases, I do not really know the things I believe. These are all these are the cases of where I do not really know the thing I believe, although what I believe may be true. Hence, knowledge involves something more than truth and certainty. That is, not only to know something as true and certain, it also needs a knowledge to be valid, that is to be considered as prama, that is justification. Justification, that is there must be some sort of sufficient evidence in its favor. So, when Nyaya discusses the theory of Parato Pramannavada, they admit inferential knowledge as the criteria, as the justification of the validity of truth, of validity of knowledge or truth of knowledge, and that is that supplies the justification condition of pramanno or of truth of that knowledge. We have made a distinction between two types of knowledge. That is, there is a difference between knowing something and knowing that we know it. That is, one is the knowledge of an object and the knowledge of that knowledge of that object. That is, knowing something and knowing something that we know it. I can know that something is the case without knowing that I know it. Nevertheless, knowledge is invariably born with certainty about its truth, but such certainty must also accompany a belief. It is for this reason that all beliefs, true or false, generate unwavering activity as knowledge does. The Mimamsa assumes that the certainty of truth to be knowledge of truth, but if the two are not distinguished, two are not, two means that is the knowledge of an object and the knowledge of that knowledge. If we do not make distinction between these two types of knowledge, then it would have to be admitted that knowledge can be false, which, as we have seen, is logically impossible. It is also opposed to the basic tenet of Mimamsa that knowledge is by nature true. The only way out is to admit that truth of a knowledge is known extrinsically, that is, by an extraneous factor. But there is a basic ground for admitting Shato Pramannavada. I think this is the demand of the whole structure of Mimamsa philosophy, because the Mimamsa, however, would not, the Mimamsa admit the validity of scriptural knowledge, Shruti. So, I think if they would not admit Shato Pramannavada, then the self-validity of scriptural knowledge would be endangered, which they never accept. Thus, at the root of the insistence on the intrinsic knowledge of truth lies the resolution to safeguard the validity of scriptural statements. So, this is the basic ground for the Mimamsakas to admit the Shato Pramannavada. Okay. Again, the Nyaya, if we consider the Nyaya Parato Pramannavada, we can say that Nyaya also rightly maintains that knowledge of truth is extrinsic. But knowledge of truth is extrinsic. Why? Because they made a distinction between knowledge and valid knowledge. So, whenever we get knowledge, we do not get it as valid. Then we cannot explain all our false knowledges. And this issue basically from this issue entails the Khativadas, Nyāyikas, Annatha Khativada and Mimamsakas Akhativada. So far as Mimamsakas do not admit false knowledge, they compelled to admit Akhativada. That is, there is no false cognition, false, but there are false activities, Mithya Pravritti. And they explained it to the non-discrimination between two types of knowledges and their two objects. And Nyāyikas compels to admit Annatha Khati. So the Nyaya, on the other hand, rightly maintains that the knowledge of truth is extrinsic. But one point can be said, that the Nyaya fails to distinguish between knowledge and belief. If it recognizes this distinction, that is, there is a distinction between knowledge and belief, then I think the doctrine of extrinsic truth of knowledge would be more logical and can claim greater acceptability. If we consider Nyāyika's definition of knowledge, we can see that it is somehow like belief, which I see in Western philosophy. Belief cannot be claimed as knowledge, but Nyāyika's the status of knowledge, that is buddhi or jnana, same as belief. It is also not in the true sense of term jnana, that is proma. So if they maintain a distinction between jnana and belief, jnana and vishwas, then it would be better that the Parata Pramannavada is more acceptable than Shata Pramannavada. So there are arguments, counter arguments between all the philosophers, and this is the main issue of Indian philosophy, Khandana Mandana. And in this way, their debates proceeds further. And but we can say, I would not like to conclude that Nyaya view is better than Mimamsa view, or Mimamsa view is better than Nyaya view, because both the views have sufficient grounds to in their favor, and both are compelled to accept such type of epistemological theory to maintain the to maintain the consistency of their philosophical systems. So this is all. Thank you all for giving me patience.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sabita, can we now see your face, please?
Yes, definitely. I am actually, I am not so convenient with Zoom. I am more easy to access Google Meet.
Yes,
so it is somehow seems problematic for me.
Everything went well. Well, thank you very much. Participants, the debate that Professor Samanta presented is actually one of the most important debate in Indian epistemology. And this debate has continued for long between the Mimamsakas and the Nyāyikas. And this debate has interesting repercussions on other issues in metaphysics as well. So, and this is a very, very, what should I say? This really forms the heart, the central part of Indian epistemology. This debate between the Mimamsakas and the Nyāyikas, between the Swata Pramannavadins and the Parata Pramannavadins. And Professor Samanta has really taken us, through this debate, through the arguments and counter arguments in this debate. So, my dear participants, if you have any questions or comments or clarifications to ask Professor Samanta, please come forward.
Yes.
Yeah, I was curious to know, is there any Sanskrit corresponding term to belief?
No, I do not find, but actually, I followed Bhasha Paricheda and Tarka Sangraha mainly, and in these two texts, there is no term corresponding to belief, but I think when Nyaya use now Gyano or Buddhi, Sarva Vyavaharo Gyano Buddhir Gyanam, and this Gyano is something like belief, because it may be true or false, as belief may be true or false, but I can't found, maybe they are, but so far as I concern, I can't found any term corresponding to belief.
Achha, another thing I'm curious to ask, towards the end of your lecture, as you rightly pointed out, that this Swata Pramannavada of Mīmāṅsaka is somehow related to their defense of scriptural authority, right? Now, how would then Nyaya, account for the nature of scriptural authority through their Parata Pramannavada?
Actually, I think you know better than me, but from my perspective, I think that Mīmāṅsakas are Mīmāṅsakas accepts Veda as Sata Praman. Okay, Naiyayikas admit the Pramanna of Veda, but they are independently established their many theses. Okay. And in that case, they admitting the Pramanna of Veda or Shruti, they establishes Parato Pramannavada since they are pragmatic. And from pragmatic standpoint, since we have many false knowledge, doubtful knowledge we face in our everyday life, and to explain all these false, invalid knowledges and doubtful knowledges, they admit that if knowledge produces as valid, then how can we explain all these behaviors, all these false activities, Bhramatmak activities? So I think from this standpoint, they admit Parata Pramannavada, that is, whenever we know may not be valid or proma. Knowledge and proma are different. Many things we know in our everyday life, but from them, not all are valid. That's why they admit Parata Pramannavada. And relating to this Parata Pramannavada, they admit Annatha Khativada to explain Brahmogyan, invalid knowledge.
Yes.
I think this is my viewpoint.
Right. So, yes, my dear participants, if you have any questions to ask, clarifications to ask Professor Samanta, please come forward.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
so,
sir.
please. So, do you have any
Mandira,
questions or clarifications?
Actually, Professor Chakraborty, one thing I
Yes.
also one thing also haunt me, that Mīmāṅsaka admits Shata Pramannavada, but Parata Apramannavada. Okay, but
Yes.
their starting point, premise is that what I say, not premise, that that is their main point is that all knowledge are valid. All knowledges are valid. If all knowledge are valid, then how the question of proof and invalidity arises
right,
at all.
right.
So,
Yes.
Parato Apramanyabad. I think this is somehow inconsistent with their epistemological views or epistemological standpoint, that is all
Yes,
knowledge
yes,
are valid.
yes,
And
yes.
in that case, I think that since they admit what I say, false activities, Brahmapravritti,
Hmm. Hmm.
they cannot deny practical experiences. So
Hmm.
to explain those practical experiences, they compel to admit this type of false knowledge. But actually, in reality, they do not admit false knowledge because
Yes.
that will contradict with their basic structure, that is
Right,
Shatapramanna of Veda,
right.
Apaurushayatva of Veda.
Yes, yes,
All
yes,
these
yes.
are somehow related, consistently related.
Yes. Definitely.
Sir,
So, participants, you have any questions or
yes,
clarifications to ask?
I have one question, sir.
Yes, please go ahead.
I want to know that according to Prabhakara, I mean Shatapramanavadins, they said that all knowledge are valid in itself, intrinsically valid. So if all knowledge are valid in itself, so why do we mistake in every day, in our life? So what is the explanation? This
Yes.
questions.
Thank you for your question. Basically, this question is related with their theory of akhyati. Yes, Prabhakar, no, Mimamsakas do not admit false knowledge, but they accept false activity, Brahmatmak Pravritti. And this was the main attack against Mimamsakas from Nyāyikas, that if you do not admit false knowledge, how can do you explain false activities, false pravritti, Brahmapravritti? And in that case, Mimamsakas has a strong explanation from their perspective. They said that, yes, all knowledges are true, valid. But when we see a snake in the place of a rope, Rajju Sarpa Brahma, in the case of Rajju Sarpa Brahma, actually what happens? There occur two separate knowledges, two distinct knowledge. One is the perceptual cognition of that particular dharmi, that is subject. This is a snake, that dharmi. And another is the memory cognition of snake. And as two separate cognitions, that is the perceptual cognitions and memory cognition, these two are totally different by nature. We know that first one is anubhavatmak jnana and second one is sritatmak jnana. Anubhav and sriti are totally different. Then what happens? They continued that these two knowledges are different and their objects are also different, but unfortunately, due to the the gap between two knowledges, the knower fails to distinguish between two types of knowledges and their two objects. Veda groho, non-discrimination between two knowledge, one perceptual and one memory knowledge, memory cognition. The non-discrimination between two types of knowledges and their two objects are responsible for all the false activities. This is the explanation. That is, knowledge by itself valid, but the situation shows that there is a non-discriminative knowledge occurs. Non-discrimination done by the knower due to the short distance between two types of knowledge, due to expectation of the internal expectation of the knower, etc., etc. But situation is this. This is the explanation from Mimamsakar's point of view of false knowledge, Brahmogyan.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Am I clear?
Thank you. Thank you.
Nazrul Sheikh.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yes,
Sir,
Satyabroto, go ahead.
Sir, ma'am, I have a question. My question is, suppose regarding the alternatives of Parato Pramanno and Parato Apramanno. Suppose I am having a cognition A. Now, to prove or disprove that cognition, I am taking the help of another extrinsic cognition of
Please,
B.
I can't hear your
Okay.
question. Please repeat. 1 second, please.
Ma'am, am I audible now?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, ma'am, I am audible.
Shotto. Yes,
Am I
yes, yes.
Yes, yeah. Ma'am, I am talking about the alternatives of Parato Pramanno and Parato Apramanno. Okay, so if I am having a cognition A, suppose, now to prove or disprove that cognition, I am taking the resource of another extrinsic cognition, that is B. Now, can I raise this kind of a question that in order to prove or disprove the validity of B again, I have to take the resource or recourse of another cognition, that is C. So will this lead to an infinite regress? I mean, at the end of this epistemological chain, shall we have to take the resource of Sato Pramanno ultimately? Because otherwise the chain will lead to infinity.
I think your question is that if Parato Pramannavadis admit separate knowledge to justify, to validate the first
previous
knowledge, the
Yes,
infinite regress will continue.
Yeah. Yes.
No, actually, Nyaya has strong argument. You can go through the Bhasha Pariched. There, Vishwanath mentions that the process, that is to validate the first knowledge through the second knowledge, that is inferential knowledge, Safolo Pravritti Janakot Hetu inferential knowledge. And if anybody argued that this knowledge is also, I also mentioned, and this argument put forwarded by Mimamsakas also, but Nyaya said that this process will not end, because when you do not know that the knowledge is true or false, that is in the doubtful situation, you are not certain that this knowledge is prama or aprama. We also what I say, that we are able to do pravritti, that is to do activities following that knowledge, not that after knowing the validity or pramatva of any knowledge, the knower engaged with pravritti, but knowing it as doubtful, he also engaged with pravritti or activities. But if pravritti becomes successful, then we can say that it is prama. All these are cases of anobhas dasapanno gyano. That is, you don't know, you are not certain that these are prama. And whenever once you established that the pramatto by safala pravritti janakatva hetu, then using this hetu, that is tad jatiyatva hetu, you can determine the validity of all other cases. So there will be no no situation of infinite regress. That is, the infinite regress will go on, not the case. In one point of view, you must stop that this knowledge is proma, and the other knowledges, whatever will be like this, tad jatiyatva. This will be the hetu to prove the validity of other knowledges. So infinite regress will end at a certain point.
Okay.
This is the answer, and its elaboration is in Bhasha Porichhed. You may go through that Bhasha Porichhed.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Anybody else?
Can I say something?
Yes, please go ahead.
Ma'am, can you differentiate from cognition and truth? What is there any criteria between the differentiate between the what is cognition and what is truth? So is there any criteria?
What can you differentiate between knowledge and
Cognition from the truth, or truth from the cognition?
yes, definitely. If you consider Nyaya philosophy, they made a sharp distinction between cognition and truth. Cognition may be either true or false. So truth is the quality or characteristic of only valid cognition. That's why they make the distinction, in Tarka Sangraha, Gyano, it's Anubhava and Sriti. Anubhav again valid and invalid, and only valid Anubhav is Proma, and these are 4 types: Pratyaksha, Unmiti, Upamiti, and Shabdabodha, according to Nyaya epistemology. So they made a sharp distinction between cognition and truth. Truth is the intrinsic quality. Truth is the characteristic of valid cognition, proma, which is known as proma, and promatto or pramanno, these are the characteristics of proma. And this promatto or pramanno can be ascertained, according to Nyaya, by extraneous conditions, that is by inferential cognition, by another knowledge, etc. So if you consider Nyaya view, there must be a distinction. They maintain the distinction between knowledge and truth. Yes.
Then what about the Mimamsaka? Means Kumaril Bhatto or Prabhakar? What about their views?
Their views explained by in Shatapramannovada. When I explained Shatapramannovada, I already mentioned that for Mimamsakas, knowledge, all knowledges are true by nature. But that's why they are Shatapramannovadin, Pramanno, that is self-validity. Shata, Pramanno is Shata. The knowledge itself reveals, itself the object and its validity. So, to the Mimamsakas, if you consider Mimamsaka view, you see that for Mimamsakas, truth is the intrinsic property of knowledge. That is, knowledge means true knowledge to them. Knowledge means true knowledge. That's why they are Shatapramannovadin. Yes. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. It's okay.
Okay. Is there any other question or clarification? Well, then I guess, sorry.
Any other question?
Well, I guess in that case, we end this academic session by conveying sincere thanks to Professor Samanta, because this is a very, very difficult, technical, and also very important part of Indian epistemology that she has presented today. So once again, thank you very much, Professor Samanta, for coming forward in giving a talk on such an important topic of epistemology. Thank you very much.
I also thanks and express my sincere gratitude to you and also all the participants for their patience and for active participation. Thank you all. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.